got text messages coming in as well. So one message was, what are some tips and best financial practices for couples getting married?
Get on the same page. And this is whether you're getting married or you've been married for a long time. Let me give you an example of what I mean by this. We all come from different backgrounds, right? And I can imagine that most married people would agree that you have a grand vision of how it's going to work. You always get along. You always agree. Things go well, right?
Yeah.
And then you get married. It's like, wait, what happened, right? And you're not always on the same page. And what it is we all have different backgrounds. We all have different styles of communication. We all have different tendencies. And that can be very problematic in marriage. So what I would say is for young people considering, they're getting married or that are already married and maybe drifting a little bit, is you've got to reconnect, get on the same page. So as an example, one thing that I did years ago is I was speaking at a marriage conference, home builders marriage conference. And I thought to myself, all these people that'll be there, they're not as connected with their spouse on finances like Holly and I are, right? So I need to help them become more like us. So I'm building up a story here, if you can tell. So I put together these worksheets, right? The idea is the husband fills out one set, the wife fills out one set, and then you come together and you discuss your answers. And I thought, well, Holly, before I teach this, you and I probably should do it.
Yeah.
Right? Let's fill out these things. Because I was sure I knew where she was on these things, that we were on the same page. And let me tell you, brother, I was ashamed. When I saw her answers, I realized I didn't know my wife's heart. I didn't know what she valued or what she had, her goals and aspirations were. Yeah. And so because of that, how could we have oneness, right? And so what you want in a marriage, in a healthy marriage, is oneness. Now also for people getting married, so try to get a lot of these questions answered up front, like, what do you feel compelled to give? Yeah. How do we live on a budget? How do we feel about debt? All these things. Who's going to handle the finances? Typically, you don't want two people. One of you is going to probably take over, right? And it doesn't have to be. There's not anything
Courtney
biblical.
Yeah.
Well, guess who does in our family, right? That's my role. But if you try to split it up or too much, all of a sudden, it's going to become a mess. You got to have one person that normally oversees, and it doesn't matter, man or woman, either way. But what I will say is communicate. Yeah. Because what happens is the tendency is, all right, let me give you an example. The wife handles the books, and the wife sees the money coming in. She also sees all the nickel and dime stuff that goes out. I have 2 girls. Let me tell you. Bows. I didn't know hair bows could cost as much as they do. So as the husband, I see these checks going in, but I'm like, where did it all go? Right? I don't see it. And so what can happen is that opens the door for bitterness, for resentment. So you got to get on the same page is the number one thing here. So get together once in a while, have a financial date night. Doesn't that sound exciting?
Doesn't that sound enticing?
Yeah. Woo, hot.
But it makes sense. Like when you're striving for oneness, like the enemy can use finances as like one of the
it'll do one
levers,
of two things, right? It'll blow you apart, or it can draw you closer together. Yeah. So Holly and I, when we went through those worksheets, because I was going to teach everybody else to be as good as we were, we came back a year later and looked at those sheets, and it was like, it was so cool. We saw all these things that we accomplished together. We rallied together, and so all of a sudden, your spouse is not the enemy. Your spouse is your teammate, your partner, and you're working together towards things.